Hey, how's it going, everyone? There's another sequence found in Enoch at the end of chapter 89 and going into 90. And this is just incredible, how many times it's appearing here. Enoch 89:75, and the Lord of the sheep remained unmoved until all the sheep were dispersed over the field and mingled with them, and they did not save them out of the hand of the beast. And so this is a prophecy that God's elect will be dispersed throughout the entire earth, and that's everywhere in the Bible. And we see that again here. Which again, to me, is at this point, Enoch should be in the Bible for sure. There's nothing in it that's quote unquote controversial, and then it supports a sequence everywhere, and then it also supports a flat stationary Earth. So, to me, it's got everything it needs to be in the Bible. And Enoch 90 verse 2, and after that I saw in my vision all the birds of heaven coming, the eagles, the vultures, the kites, the ravens, but the eagles led all the birds, and they began to devour those sheep, and to pick out their eyes and to devour their flesh. And so after the elect are saved, we have a reference here where we're dispersed over the field and mingle with them, and they did not save them out of the hands of the beast. So no man will redeem you, no man will buy you. It's the same language in Deuteronomy. And so we have a reference to salvation, and then we have a reference here to, these eagles and all that devouring bodies. And so this is consistent with Revelation. So after America is destroyed, all the dead bodies is literally going to be like food for the birds, like feast on kings and all that kind of stuff. So we have a reference to that here now. This is after the destruction of America. Okay. Now moving down to verse 7. Yea, they cried to them, but they did not hearken to what they said to them, but were exceedingly deaf, and their eyes were exceedingly blinded. Okay, so this is the rest of God's left-hand side now getting destruction, with Christ returning with his elect, and then we'll see that. Verse 15, and I saw till the Lord of the sheep came unto them in wrath, and all who saw him fled, and they all fled into his shadow before his face. Okay, so now this is the final wrath where Christ returns with his elect, and we see that. Verse 18, 666, everybody with the mark of the beast. And I saw till the Lord of the sheep came unto them, and took his hand, the staff of his wrath, and smote the earth, and the earth clave asunder, and all the beasts, listen to this, and all the beasts and all the birds of heaven fell from among those sheep, and were swallowed up in the earth, and it covered them. And so this is a reference to the beast, the mark of the beast. And I saw until a great sword was given to the sheep, and the sheep proceeded against all the beasts of the field to slay them, and all the beasts and the birds of the heaven fled before their face. And so this sheep is symbolic of the elect. And so they're going to be doing this, destruction with Christ. And so now we have a reference to Christ returning with his elect. And moving on to verse 24, and the judgment was held first over the stars, and they were judged and found guilty. And they were judged and found guilty, and went to the place of condemnation, and they were cast into an abyss full of fire and flaming and full of pillars of fire. And so this is in verse 44. God's elect are going to be returning and have the ability to burn and destroy. This is body and soul. And those 70 shepherds were judged and found guilty, and they were cast into that fiery abyss. And so this is also consistent again with the entire Bible, but in particular Zechariah 11:8. 3 shepherds also I cut off in 1 month, and my soul loathed them, and their soul also abhorred me. So God created these people to hate him, and he hates them, and he's destroying them there, and he's destroying them here. It's the same narrative. And so it's going to take 30 days for God to execute this final wrath with his elect and the angels to kill his entire left-hand side. So that's amazing, that is the same here. Verse 26, and I saw at that time how a like abyss was opened in the midst of the earth, full of fire, and they brought those blinded sheep, and they were all judged and found guilty, and cast into this fiery abyss, and they burned. Now this abyss was to the right of that house. And I saw those sheep burning, and their bones burning. So this fire that the Bible talks about is on earth, okay? And it's consuming flesh, and it's going to be body and soul. And I stood up to see until they folded up that old house and carried off all the pillars. This is the earth, the hell. It's going to be destroyed and then replenished. And I stood up to see until they folded up that old house and carried off all the pillars, and all the beams and ornaments of the house were at the same time folded up with it. And they carried it off and laid it in a place in the south of the land. And I saw until the Lord of the sheep brought a new house, greater and loftier than the first, and set it up in the place of the first, which had been folded up. All its pillars were new, and its ornaments were new and larger than those of the first. The old one which he had taken away, and all the sheep were within it. And so this is the kingdom being established here on earth. And so, and I saw all the sheep which had been left, and all the beasts of the earth, and all the birds of the heaven falling down and doing homage to those sheep, and making petition to and obeying them in everything. Okay, and so this is now Christ ruling with his elect on the earth. And so there'll be a new heaven and a new earth. And so Enoch 89 and 90 support the sequence again. Hope everyone's doing well. Bye.